Hi, Year 10. This is the first of a series of about 3 videos that I've designed for you. And the point of these videos is to basically break down your assessment task into little bite sized pieces as you work through it at your own pace. This first video is designed to help you with your brainstorming and the planning of your peel paragraphs. So, before you continue with this video, what you need to have already finished for homework was your comparative essay brainstorming Venn diagram table. You'll note that we started to look at this in class last week and you were asked to do this over the weekend. So you needed to basically compare and contrast between your first text and your second text and note any similarities that there were in terms of the way that they communicated ideas about identity, what the purpose of each text was, and whether they were different or similar. The same with the target audience, who they were aimed at. And then I asked you to start to gather some authorial choices as your evidence. So the other thing that you should have done is that you should have already started to annotate and deconstruct each of these. Now, it's completely fine if you've chosen to print and do this by hand, your annotations, or it's also okay as well if you've decided to just do this digitally in the booklet. All right, so let's get started. Now, I've already shown you this brief essay structure in class. Today, we're going to focus on looking at just the introduction and how we break down the structure of an introduction. Just before I continue, I just want to remind you, everything you do should be going in your task sheet booklet. You should have made a copy of that task sheet. And as I said, it's fine if you want to annotate and deconstruct your text by hand, highlight them, break it down, completely fine. But your drafting, your brainstorming, and your outline should be done in your essay booklet. Okay? So, guys, why do we use the Venn diagram? The reason that it's so important that you've completed that table to brainstorm your ideas in is because essentially I want you to start taking those ideas and putting those into your peel paragraphs. Now, the reason I've broken your Venn diagram table into audience, purpose of the text, and how identity is shown pretty much is because you know that's going to form the basis of your essay paragraphs. All right. So let's say, for example, that I chose immigrants at Central Station and border crime. What you should have already done is started to note down what the differences are between the audience, purpose of the text, and identity. The same for border crime, and then noting whether there's any similarities for each of these points. Okay, so I won't spend too long on that. I want to remind you about the sentence starters. Please keep using the sentence starters. If you're having trouble thinking of what the purpose of the text is, use these. They will help you figure out which way your text seems to go. Okay, so guys, let's get to how do you structure an introduction. Now, most of you, if you were in class last week, you know that we've been briefly having a look at a sample student exemplar. Okay, that's also on Google Classroom if you want to go and have a look at that after I've been through how to structure your intro. So, an introduction, what do we need? These are the 3 main success criteria that you need to address, and I'm going to break this down into a little bit more bite-sized pieces in a second. When we look at an intro, guys, we need context, we need the text type, we need publishing information of each text. So don't just write about the one text, you need to introduce both texts, okay? We're also going to have a look at what an extended thesis is, and this is where you tell me what the purpose of each text is, how the audiences are different or similar, and also how identity is shown in each text, all right? And in this, you should be briefly telling me what are the similarities, what are the differences between text 1 and text 2. So let's have a look at a little bit more of a detailed intro structure. If I broke that down even further, these are the things that you need to tick off. Use this as your checklist, your own success criteria. First thing I'm doing is I am introducing the title, the author. Don't forget that if you've chosen to do the poem, you need to call the writer a poet. They are not an author, they're a poet. The text type, please make sure you include the text type, and it's literally there on the stimulus for you. I've already put it there in the heading. Publishing information, which is also there, but you can do a bit more research on that if you like, and give me some contextual information behind each text. That doesn't have to go on for 2 or 3 sentences, the context, but you can briefly tell me that, for example, this text was published in 2002, just after the Iowa legislation was passed for an English-only speaking state. You can just give me that context, all right? Okay, you need to state the purpose of text 1, Then you need to state the purpose of text 2, and this is where you tell me whether they're different or whether they're similar. Then you do the same thing for audience. What's the audience of text 1? Who's the intended audience of text 2? Again, are they different or are they similar? This point D is probably the most important part, guys, of your introduction. It is your thesis. And we're going to go through what an extended thesis is in a moment. But this is where you tell me what's the message that your texts, that's two, try to tell us about identity. And this should also be where you tell me the main points that your essay is going to, I guess, reveal later. And it should follow in order of what comes first in your paragraphs, okay? The last point, year 10, is you need to state some of the authorial choices. Remember, that's formal and stylistic features. And that's going to support, I guess, what comes later in your paragraphs as well. Please note, you don't need to give me a full list of every single authorial choice that you're going to talk about later. Just throw in a couple, okay? Just so I get a bit of a taste of what's to come. So generally, guys, take a screenshot of this. This is your introduction structure, okay? And these are the points that I'll be looking for. So now that you've seen that, let's break it down into what is an extended thesis firstly. So an extended thesis, guys, is literally just a normal thesis, but it's just extended beyond one sentence or statement. Usually we try to condense our thesis into just one statement at the end of your introduction. The thesis still comes at the end of the introduction, but this time it might be 2, 3, 4 sentences, okay? Let's have a look at how that might appear in a sample essay intro. So this is not the whole introduction, it's just part of it. I want you to press pause on this video and I want you to read through this by yourself. So guys, what you can see here is that there are several different points being made, okay? And these points are all going to be analyzed and proven later. So this is what we call an extended thesis. And if you count up all of the full stops, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is a 4-sentence thesis. That's why it's called an extended thesis. Now, have a look at what I've highlighted here. These are all the points that this essay writer is going to prove later, that there is a common theme of sustainability in both texts. That means that they've done the same thing here, okay, in terms of their theme. Both texts, though, they differ in purpose and audience. This is the purpose of text 1. However, this is the purpose of text 2. The audience of the first text are these people, whereas the audience of the second text are these guys, okay? You'll notice at the end here, it doesn't actually tell me what formal or stylistic features each author has included. So it just says the authors of each text respectively utilize a range of formal and stylistic features. If I was critiquing this, I would probably just put in a such as metaphor, caesura, and allegory, okay? To explore the global issue. So I'd probably just mention 2 or 3, even if I know I'm going to analyze 6 later, okay? So that, in a nutshell, guys, is a thesis that is extended, an extended thesis. If you want to go and have a look at how this introduction appears in its entirety, the whole thing, you can jump onto Google Classroom, have a look here at critiquing a student exemplar, and you'll find the whole introduction there. But that is an extended thesis. So I'm going to pause this video now, and you can now move on to video number 2, where we start to look more closely at your peel paragraph structure.